This is Chip Maxwell, and you're listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. Today, David brings back financial advisor Tim Herrick to break down the recent wave of federal layoffs, potentially impacting over 100,000 government employees, and what it means for those navigating pensions and retirement planning. They discuss the pros and cons of the Thrift Savings Plan, TSP, highlight common pitfalls with TSP distributions, and explore smarter strategies like IRA rollovers and Roth conversions to help federal employees gain more control and flexibility in retirement.
Once again, back in the studio, we have our resident authority on all things federal benefits, financial advisor Tim Herrick. Tim, how are we doing this week?
Doing very well, David. How you doing?
Good. So a lot of confusion out there, a lot of different numbers being thrown about. A lot of government employees are no longer employed. How many of that is, we just don't know. Challenger Job Report says about 239,000 government employees have been let go in the last 60 days. New York Times had, I think, a different number. CNN reported a different number. But we know it's over 100,000 probably, right?
Correct, and many more to come, too.
Yeah, and a lot of the folks that signed up for the voluntary severance are stay on the payroll through September, so they won't show up till October's jobless numbers. So there's a lot of different goings, a lot of people getting fired, a lot of people voluntarily retiring. But bottom line, if you've worked for the federal government, you need to make sure you understand how things work, how your pension options work, whether you're what we call SERS, whether you're what we call FERS, right? The two main programs that are going to be in there. And then what we deal with a lot is helping them not only understand the actuarial science between pension choices, et cetera, but most of these folks have accumulated quite a few dollars in the federal version of the 401k, if you will, called the Thrift Savings Plan, or we call it the TSP. And there are a ton of folks that have some confusion about the TSP. So you've dealt with folks in this area a lot. So let's just talk about some of the pros and cons of the TSP in general, right? One of the big things that people that are work for the government, it's the cheapest investment out there. Well, it is a cheap investment, but is it the cheapest? The answer there is no. Vanguard's actually surprisingly significantly cheaper, about 30% cheaper for the exact same thing, right?
Correct, yeah. And there's a lot of benefits to the TSP is that, like you said, it's a little bit of inexpensive. It's got some very broad diversification, but it comes with some significant cons as well. Obviously, you have limitations of the strategies. Basically, it puts you in a cookie-cutter situation, kind of takes the individual out of the situation, if you will. There's also significant difficulty initiating distributions due to the website not being user-friendly. I hear time and time again people's frustrations when it comes to wanting to set up the distributions. So that's...
Well, let's just stop right there. So big problem with the TSP. As we talk about, the pros are it is relatively inexpensive to the majority of investment vehicles out there. As you mentioned, though, they're very, very limited. So you're going to have basically the C fund, which is basically tracking the S&P 500, the G fund, which is basically going to be an aggregate bond index. However, that one resets and and a lot of people think it's safe. It's not done so well. With interest rate movements, you can actually lose money. You can lose significant money in there. Then you have the I fund, the S fund, et cetera. So you've got basically international funds, you have small cap funds, et cetera, right? So you've got these different funds. And then in recent years, they added these target date funds, which is a collaboration of all the funds. And they're trying to weight this to be less aggressive. However, some people found it didn't actually work out. But what I want to get back to is the point you talk about distribution. When you go in to try and take a distribution, the TSP does not allow customized distributions. In other words, when we set up a retirement plan, we have all these different buckets of money, tax deferred, tax free, taxable, and then we allocate assets based on timeframes. And when you're taking income every month, we have a predetermined bucket. We're going to only withdraw income from that bucket, not your aggressive stock bucket, where when it comes to TSP, it takes it across the board no matter what. If you want $1,000, it's going to sell a little bit of everything inside of your account, right?
Correct. It doesn't discern as to where you're going to take those distributions from, so it takes you out of the driver's seat, if you will. And you are at a significant disadvantage as a result.
And this can harm your returns significantly during the distribution phase of your life. In other words, if you're not controlling where the distributions flow from, you are going to, it's just like dollar cost averaging works on the way up. But blanket distributions absolutely crush you in the decumulation phase or the income phase of your life.
Correct, yes.
And so oftentimes we'll recommend folks understand, hey, if you rolled those dollars to an IRA, you may potentially benefit not only from having a distribution sequence set up to your liking, but also there's some tax savings opportunities that come into play, right?
Correct. Yes. And that brings me to my second point is that people will often go to the TSP annuity situation where it does provide a fixed number for your retirement future, but ultimately does not allow for the Roth conversions that we are a big fan of because it limits your tax-free in the future as well.
Well, not only that is you're locking in your income and it's not going to inflation adjust. That annuity does not adjust. It's set it and forget it. That monthly payment, what it is today, will not give you the same spending power 10 years from now or 20 years from now. In fact, it'll be cut in half over 20 years.
Correct. You are not participating in the growth of the U.S. economy. You are capping your retirement goals, if you will.
Now, I'm not a big fan of guaranteed annuity payments just in general. However, for some people, it does make sense. Some people like the guaranteed income, but that usually comes at a cost. And it's the same thing with the TSP. You are giving up the growth of these assets to buy this guaranteed income stream. That money is now locked into the annuity, where there are private carriers, and we can shop them. We deal with over 40 different carriers, and we can probably buy you, if that's what you want, higher guaranteed income. Although, again, sometimes I caution people from doing that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Uncle Sam wants you to go to the TSP annuity because you're not participating in that guaranteed growth for the future.
Yeah, and they're keeping the assets in there, which they want to keep under their control. But anyway, so if you're a federal employee out there, whether you don't plan on retiring for 10 years in the future or you're nervous or scared with the Doge, if you will, that's going on, we're going to be going through some massive changes in the government. Again, this has nothing to do with politics. It has to do everything to do with $36.8 trillion in debt. And can we continue to fund jobs in areas that are not what some people would consider essential to our federal government's constitutional duties? And this is where, again, people need to make sure they understand, will my job be here? And it may not be here, even if it makes it through this year, it may not be here 5 years from now, right?
Correct.
So what recommendations would you make for those folks that are sitting there right now, a little nervous, that are working for the federal government? What should they be doing?
They should ultimately be contacting a financial advisor to learn what their future is going to look like based on what they're currently doing. Obviously, the job situation is very, very in flux, but having a plan in place will take a lot of the uncertainty and the concerns out of the future, if you will. So it's inspiring a lot of people to have these very comprehensive conversations, which is a net benefit to the individuals.
Well, you've been having a ton of these conversations every week with folks, I mean, not just here in the Midwest, but all over the country, really, right?
Correct. I have about 30 to 40 appointments every single week with individuals from Alaska to Germany to Georgia to California.
So Tim is kind of our resident authority, as we said, on everything federal benefits, helping you understand how to navigate the world of federal benefits, the annuity, the TSP, your pension calculations, your benefits for healthcare, all these things and more are what make up a holistic plan. Now, we call our financial planning proprietary system the SMART Plan, and it absolutely translates perfectly to those federal employees. So if you're a federal employee out there, we are going to have a class coming up. We don't have the dates for that yet, but if you're concerned and you would like to schedule just a 15-minute discovery call with Tim, we would be happy to set that up. And so they can just give us a call and we'll get them on your calendar. We have a calendar link we can probably send out to them to schedule time. Is that how we're operating your calendar right now? I don't even know.
Yes, they pick the times that work best for them, and I'm happy to have those conversations and answer the questions.
Very good. Hey, we are out of time for this segment, folks. So again, if you or you know a loved one or a friend that is working for the federal government and is a little nervous with what's going on, we'd be happy to set up that discovery call and have them chat with Tim about all things government-related retirement.
Thank you for listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. If you want to learn how to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, visit retiresmartpodcast.com. And make sure to subscribe to keep up with new episodes every week.